Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new session of NTalks second edition. Today, we'll talk about something central to the future of logistics, how to measure sustainability in the practical and the dependable way. It is not enough to be innovative. We also need to show real impact. More and more ports and logistics operators are being asked to prove they are sustainable, not just to say it. That's why we need to clear methods and tools to assess what is we are doing and where we are going. Today, we'll explore how these tools can help turn ideas into measurable results. We are very pleased to have with us two researchers who are working exactly on this challenge. Natalia Fernandez and José Manuel Vassallo from the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. They have been developing methods to evaluate sustainability in logistics. So welcome, Natalia, welcome, José. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Luis. So let me share my screen.
José, I don't know if you want to start to present yourself for our audience. I don't know if they.
Yes, I will make a brief introduction to the team. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much to the Nexus Initiative for this invitation to give this session that basically is about a very, very interesting topic and a concept that sometimes is everybody speaks about, but there are many people who don't know yet what is the real meaning of that. Before that, let us introduce ourselves. My name is José Manuel Vassallo. I am full professor on transport economics and planning, and I am the director of the Transport Research Center at UPM. And Natalia Sobrino is associate professor at UPM as well. She is actually leading the research area concerning logistics and sustainability, and particularly when it comes to the measurement of GHG emissions. So here, let us present our university. We are the largest technical university in Spain with many undergrads and postgraduate students, and with the highest activity at the Horizon Europe program. Within this university, there is a network of research centers. Transit is a transport research center that was created in 2002. And it is a multidisciplinary research center on mobility and transport, addressing its economic, social, and environmental spatial dimensions to provide innovative solutions to the society. We are participating in a big array of networks and also in two important European projects, which are the LEAD project and currently in the Admiral project, both of them pretty much related to logistics. Here you have a summary of the areas that we will touch upon our presentation. We will go through the sustainability concept and related regulations, then the strategies for sustainable logistics and freight transportation, and overview of assessment methodologies. Then we will explain a novel method that we have defined and used for setting a sustainability score. Then we will explain to you an application to case studies in European cities, and finally, the scalability and potential applications. So I want to start with the concept of sustainability. This concept started with a famous report of the Brundtland Commission in 1987, basically setting the concept of sustainable development as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. No? This concept came up because of the great concern that the decision-making process was at that time pretty much focused on productivity and growth. But there was a threat that this growth ended up compromising the environment. So we may be growing up quite a lot in the present at the expense of worsening the quality of life in terms of environmental and social aspects for the future. So there are some ideas that are embedded within the sustainability definition. So the first one is promote intergenerational equity. So the question is, maybe we don't have to grow that much nowadays in order to provide a more sustainable growth over the years. Then the second is ensure quality of life of human beings. At the end of the day, we are not so much concerned just with making money if at the end of the day we are not going to be able to spend that money because nature is going down because we don't have time for other activities. The third one is avoid the depletion of resources. We have to consider that the resources can deplete. As a consequence of that, we have to promote a circular economy that facilitates to make sure that we have enough resources, not just nowadays, but over the years. Then mitigating inequities across groups. The concept of equity is something very important within sustainability. We don't have to think just of people with a lot of wealth, but also to try to make the society more equitable. Finally, designing institutional frameworks for change. This is not just a question of concept. According to this author, Ryan, sustainability aims to bridge the gap between environmentalists and developmentalists. So that's important, because actually what you find in society is people, decision makers, pretty much focus on growth. We have to be efficient from the economic perspective. And on the other flip of the coin, we have people concerned about the environment. Sustainability is kind of being able to find the right balance between those. We have to live in a world that has to compromise environmental, social, and economic aspects. According to Johnson et al., sustainability includes three main ideas. The first one is the existence of a limit to economic development set by the capacity of ecosystems and natural resources. So we cannot, deplete, waste all the resources. We have to think of the future. The need to achieve a fair distribution of resources both within and between generations. That's important. Within, because there are many groups in the generations. We have poor and rich people. And between generations in the sense that we have to balance the needs of today with the needs of the future. And the third one is the need to attain a socially efficient allocation of resources within the constraint mentioned above in order to maximize the global well-being. In this graph, you see a summary of the three pillars of sustainability that is necessary to compromise. On the one hand, economic viability. On the second one, the environmental protection. And in the third place, the social equity. At the end of the day, you see that the concept of sustainability is basically the intersection of these three places: the economic viability, the social equity, and the environmental protections. So at the end of the day, the sustainability concept looks for reaching a balance between two different objectives. On the one hand, between the economic, social, and environmental objectives. So that means that, for instance, thinking just of environmental would lead us to basically do nothing. Imagine that we decide to, okay, we are not gonna have any more transportation because in order to preserve the environment. That wouldn't be a good solution for the society. And the other way around, we cannot think just on growing up by polluting and by actually producing and generating problems for the next generation. And the second driver of this balance is the driver across generations. We have to think of the future. Maybe we don't have to grow so much now, but we have to live a little bit to the future. Actually, our concern with climate change lies on diet. Maybe nowadays we can survive with climate change, though this summer is actually being very tough in many places. But somehow, if we keep on emitting a lot of greenhouse gas emissions at the atmosphere, in 20, 30, or 100 years, the situation is not going to be sustainable. So at the end of the day, the concept of sustainability requires giving up something to reach a greater balance with other objectives and future generations. This is what sustainability is all about. So maybe we have to try not to reach just one single objective, but maybe to fulfill it a little bit less, but being able to be sustainable over time. It's important that in the framework of this sustainability concept, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainability Development adopted by United Nations member states provides a shared blueprint from peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. And as a consequence of that, it has set 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing. Within that, you have the no poverty, zero hunger, and many other objectives you are familiar with. So I will give the floor to Natalia Sobrino to continue with the presentation. So I think, Natalia, that now you will have the control.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Well, so now just making it this sustainable concept to logistic. All of you know that logistics sector has undergone a paradigm shift in response to this growing environmental concern, the policy pressures, and the shifting consumer expectation. The logistic activities such as freight transport, warehousing, storage, packaging, or last mile delivery are vital to economic development, but they also contribute significantly to the environmental impact, including this greenhouse gas emission, air pollution, noise, or land use. No, you.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Because I think
freight transport, just to make some figures, freight transport accounts for about 8% of global greenhouse gas emission. And when warehousing activities are included, this number rises to the 11%. And the future trends with this growing demand on logistic activities suggest that these figures are expected to continue increasing. So these environmental costs have led to growing concern from the government, civil society, and industrial leaders to the green logistic and sustainable logistic concepts. This is a concept that seeks to reduce the environmental impact of logistic operation without compromising service quality or profitability. Right? So, however, despite the technological advance available, the implementation of this green logistics remains challenging, and especially when we have at European level diverse geopolitical and economic contexts. So this makes it harder. For instance, while innovations such as electric vehicles or smart supply chains promise reduced emission, their adoptions varies widely due to the economic disparities or geopolitical context at European levels. So achieving these green logistic paradigms also requires that all stakeholders, the diverse stakeholder ecosystem, prioritize long-term carbon emission over short-term commercial gains. So they have to be aligned, all this stakeholder system, no? So given this diverse stakeholder ecosystem, the following here you can see a table based on an actor analysis with the main challenges and opportunity for sustainable and green logistics of each of the main stakeholders. Just starting, for example, cargo owners. They are companies that produce their own goods and have a great influence in deciding what type of modes to be used in their goods to the final consumer. But they face several challenges if they want to achieve sustainable goals, like carbon emission reduction, due to the high reliance on fossil fuels, cost of green logistics, since the sustainable practice such as the use of electric vehicles or biofuels often come with a higher cost for the activity, lack of transparency due to the difficulties in tracking sustainability metrics across the complex supply chains, regulatory compliance. We have a lot of, we are going to see now different European regulations that are pressing this sustainability at logistics sector. And well, the main opportunities for them with this sustainable and green logistics are that they can adopt different strategies to improve their sustainability, such as the green procurement, investment in carbon offset programs to neutralize emission, use of technologies like the Internet of Things or the artificial intelligence for the supply chain transparency and efficiency. It the same happen with the transport operator, which are companies providing free transport services and are responsible for the movement of goods by trucking, shipping, rail, air, and they have a high interest in expanding the freight market share and providing sustainable freight transport. Transport operator also face some challenges similar to the cargo owners, like they have high carbon emission, since many of the freight transport operations are based on road-based. Road transport is major contributor to the greenhouse gas emission because they are rely on fossil fuels. Rail, while are more efficient, still relies on non-renewable energy in some regions, and its use is very limited. So they also face some cost of transition. They have to face some costs for adopting green technology, infrastructure limitation. There is a lack of charging station for electric vehicles or electrified network, no? But at the end, they have some other opportunities or key opportunities if they want to achieve this sustainable and green logistic, no? The same is for freight forwarder. They have to face complex supply chains, regulatory diversity across countries, the cost, and the transparency between each of the chain, of the supply chain. And they also present some many other opportunities. Infrastructure operators, also they are responsible for maintaining and optimizing transport network to support the efficient and sustainable transport. They have to face a high initial cost of investment in infrastructure like a renewable energy facility, electrified transport network, which requires significant upfront investment. Regulatory complexity again, different countries and regions, they have different sustainability standards, they have different prioritization goals. Technological integration, incorporation advanced technologies may require careful planning and standardization and harmonization between countries or region, maintenance of the infrastructure, or scalability and flexibility. But by implementing different sustainability strategies, they can enhance this sustainability by energy efficiency measure, green infrastructure design. They have to be work close with the government to fulfill these sustainable goals. Here, other stakeholders like energy suppliers, technology providers, government and regulators, industry association, or research or academia also present different challenges, and opportunities to achieve this sustainable and green logistics. Most of them are very similar, this challenge and the opportunities to reach these sustainable strategies. As we have pointed out, a key aspect of the paradigm in shift logistics is the regulation. It's a big issue at European level, particularly addressing this environmental dimension. Within the Admiral project, we have made a detailed review that has been carried out of European sustainability regulation affecting logistics sector and freight transport. And here you can see, for example, the three first, the sustainable and smart mobility strategy, the European climate law, or the Fit for 55 package, a regulation that looks to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by 2030 and climate neutrality by 2050. One regulation focused on technology is the FT regulation, which enforces to use electronic data exchange for freight transport. That are also main focus on technology. But one of the key points on sustainability and one regulatory framework that affects all logistic companies is the corporate sustainability reporting, the Scope 3 emission directive, that and its standard, which requires companies to account for indirect emission across their value chains. This directive and regulation are main focus on the environment and social dimension of the sustainability, and in consequence, the collaboration among government, businesses, and logistic operation have become essential to meet this strict environmental standard. More focus on the environment, there are directives such as the emission trading system, which are a market-based mechanisms designed to reduce pollution by setting a cap on emission and allowing entity to trade allowance that permits them to emit a specific quantity of a pollutant. The European emission trading system, for example, is expanding, and all of you know that includes maritime transport and road transport and building. So this is also a key directive that are also affecting this sustainability, the environment of logistic activities. Other regulations are more focused on infrastructure development, such as the TEN-T regulation, the guidelines for the development of the Trans-European Transport Network, that want to increase the use of rail freight transport in order to meet these climate change goals, to reduce these climate change emissions. Other regulations are also include the renewable and low carbon fuels in maritime transport. And as you see here, there is a lot of pressure on European regulation when it's come to reduce the climate change impacts of logistic and transport activities, and the sustainability and the social issues of these logistic activities. In order to meet these regulation goals, there have been implemented different strategies in the logistic and freight transport sector seeking to meet this sustainability. For instance, in order to reduce distant travel, which is direct related to energy consumption and environmental impacts, they are establishing a decentralized distribution network based on regional hubs in order to short this distance, or also, for example, the integration of intermodal transport, which combines rail, waterways, short sea shipping, and road freight to optimize long-distance logistics and reduce these empty miles and reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Another strategies are focused on creating a green fleet by using low emission vehicles or maintaining efficiency in their operations, for example. The promotion of collaboration among stakeholders is another point to consider. By promoting resource sharings between companies, consolidation of the loads, hauling in less dense areas. Warehousing activities are also an important chain of the logistic activities. So any initiative to reduce energy consumption or promote renewable energy is interesting to achieve this sustainable and green logistic. The digitalization and making use of technologies advancement are also important to coordinate our forecasting or for the decision making on the logistic process. And finally, also an important part is the reverse logistic and packaging are also in part of this set of strategies for the sustainable logistics. So here as an example, when a stakeholder like a transport operation have to choose between different strategies to make logistics more sustainable, for example, they could choose converting their vehicle fleet into a clean and low emission fleet, but they also have the possibility of using digital and collaborative tools to reduce empty runs in their operation. So the question arises for this transport operator saying, okay, but what are the impacts of each strategy on sustainability? Are the environmental benefits balanced with the social and economic ones in each case? Which of these strategies contributes most to the overall sustainability of the system in its territory in this specific context? So for that, to do so, we need sustainability assessment tools in order to respond these questions. So I give the floor to José Manuel.
Okay. So I will take over again. So it was connecting with what Natalia said. There are many strategies, but for decision-making purposes, we need to have tools to evaluate those strategies. So there are different methodologies to evaluate the impact of strategies. The most common ones are the pure economic analysis based on cost-benefit analysis at what extended to the social cost-benefit analysis. This approach is very good, very interesting, but it is limited when it comes to the evaluation of sustainability because those approaches focus just on those aspects that can be expressed in monetary units. And there are many social and environmental impacts that are impossible to quantify. And even this trade-off between the present generation and the future generation is not considered in this type of economic analysis. The second approach is the multi-criteria decision-making, which is somehow the most common mechanism for this evaluation. You see it here. The main issue is the difficulty of setting the right weights for the criteria. First, to decide the right criteria and to setting up the trade-offs between the criteria. There are also derivatives or this multi-criteria method. You have this multi-actor, multi-criteria analysis that incorporates the stakeholders' perspective, and it has been pretty much used in the case of urban logistics, promoting participatory decision-making. Or there are hybrid methods. Hybrid methods try to combine some of the previous methods mentioned above. And finally, there are many standardization associations. They have promoted what we call sustainability frameworks and indexes. So the idea of that is not so much to assess and quantify sustainability as it is to set a kind of rating in order to certify that a certain infrastructure or service comply with sustainability. It is based on the use of global and standard KPIs, and the main limitation is that they are often descriptive and may not guide specific decisions directly. So as you see here, there is a big gap on the methods that we want to use for the sustainability, for quantifying, for measuring, for rating sustainability approaches. Particularly when it comes to the comparison of different territories, local values, they have sometimes data availability limitations. So as a consequence of that, we decided to develop a new method. Actually, this method follows a multi-criteria analysis framework inspired by the STAR method that was developed here at our group by a PhD student I supervise and by myself. So the idea is to define a method with enough flexibility to be adapted to the specific situation, and particularly concerned with not just with a set of criteria and how this criteria is measured by expert stakeholders, but including as well the sensitivity to the context. And here it is something important to mention. Basically, when we have a panel of experts and we ask the expert to rate the priority across different criteria, so they are thinking of a general trade-off. However, we see that those criteria can be or can experience a lot of different impacts in the context. For instance, if in the city of Madrid there is a big unemployment problem, the social criteria that deals with creation of jobs will be much more important than it is in a city such as Rotterdam, where almost there is no unemployment. Or for instance, if a certain city has a pollution problem, that indicator will be much more important than in a city that basically has no pollution problems. So the same indicators and criteria may have different weights according to the specific needs of the context. There are mostly 3 steps in this method. I will go quickly in this slide because I will explain them in greater detail in following slides. So basically, the first step is the definition of alternatives compared to the baseline alternative, that is the doing nothing. So these alternatives can be different logistic strategies or different measures that we want to adopt to increase the sustainability of logistics. Then we will set a set of sustainability criteria that can be measurable and adoptable to all the strategies. And then we will quantify these KPIs for the different alternatives. The second step is about the calculation of the weights. And for the weights, we will consider 2 aspects. On the one hand, what the experts converge, what is the convergent opinion of experts. And on the other hand, we will consider what we call the severity level. The severity level is what is this specific KPI in the context, how sensitive a certain KPI is in context. With that, we will combine and calculate a final rating that will allow us to estimate what is the sustainability improvement of a certain solution in a specific context. So that will facilitate to evaluate the effectiveness of different strategies implemented in cities where the sustainability needs are completely different. So here, going through the first step, so the first one is establishing the scenario value cases, considering the base case, and then different alternatives. The different alternatives is different possibilities that we have to promote cleaner logistics. Here, for instance, we are here considering the analysis that we use for the lead project. In the case of the lead project, we selected 15 KPIs. For other alternatives, we can select, or depending on the amount of data we have, we can select more KPIs. But in this case, we selected 7 economic KPIs, 3 social KPIs, and 5 environmental KPIs. Here you have actually the KPIs. In the social ones, you see job creation, quality of jobs, neighborhood quality of life, the environmental energy consumption, GHG, NOx, PM, and noise. And here you have several economic ones, such as congestion, releasing urban storage and parking space, financial rate of return of the logistic providers, retail benefits, delivery time, etc. We have to assign an effect sign. The effect sign, basically what it says is whether the indicator is positive for sustainability or negative. For instance, in the case of job creation, the higher the amount of jobs created, the better for sustainability. In the case of NOx emission, the larger the amount of NOx emissions, the worse for sustainability. So the effect sign is negative. Then the second step is obtained to what we call the convergence weights. And basically that is conducted throughout using the Rembrandt and Delphi techniques. So the Rembrandt and Delphi techniques are econometric statistical techniques based on a questionnaire that is provided to a very wide panel of experts. So the idea is that we provide this questionnaire to all the experts. The experts have no information about what the other experts think. We try to find a high variety of experts, with experts across different countries and experts that look at the logistic business from different perspectives. So they have to complete a very wide questionnaire. And when we have the questionnaire, we conduct a test to see to what extent the opinion of the experts converge or not. If they don't do it, we conduct a second round, basically informing the experts to what extent their opinion converge or not, and whether they are willing to change a little bit their opinion at the light of the average opinion of all the experts. We conducted that, and actually you have the survey data available online, so you are open to look at that in detail. You have quite a lot of information. But we came up with this opinion from the different stakeholders. Of course, this is an opinion that is not placed in a specific context. That's an opinion in which we ask the experts to give us their comparisons irrespective of the specific city where we want to test the analysis. As a consequence of that, we have to develop a second indicator that we call the severity level to basically adjust this convergent weight according to how sensitive the indicator is in context. Basically, we can do that comparing, for instance, what are the levels of pollution in different European cities of NOx, for instance. So we can calculate the average of the European cities, and if a certain city has a much greater pollution than the average of the cities, in that case, the sensitivity of this indicator in the city will be much higher. And the other way around, if there is a city where pollution is not an issue, so in that case, clearly, pollution will not be such an important criteria when it comes to sustainability. We include not just the current situation, but how the trend is set. No? So with that, setting the indicators with official statistics, and when official statistics were not available, through the opinion of people that know very well the specific territorial context where the solution is being implemented, we came up with this severity level. So, combining both the convergent weights and the severity level, we were able to calculate what we call the adjusted weights. These adjusted weights, that for each city, the summation of that is 100 because they are normalized, will give us what is the weight of different criteria. You see, first of all, and that's an interesting point, that for instance, in cities where Madrid, with a high unemployment rate, job creation and quality of jobs are the most important ones. In The Hague, however, it is NOx emission, one of the greatest, and the delivery reliability within the time window, the two criteria with the highest weights, along with energy consumption. In the case of Porto, actually, this is something we conducted for LEED, and Natalia, when we explain the application, will explain to you why we selected these cities, basically because they were 3 cities where we tested pilots for improving logistics. In the case of Porto, for instance, an very important issue is the efficiency of the logistic providers. No? So finally, when we have all the information, what we calculate is what is the KPI change. So for instance, and the change is between the specific alternative what we are evaluating and the baseline. The baseline is the do-nothing alternative. So for instance, for each one of the KPIs, we will be able to calculate whether, for instance, GHG emissions diminish or are reduced with this alternative or increase. So we can do that with all the KPIs we have selected. With that information, we calculate finally what we call the sustainability performance. The sustainability performance is the summation of all these increment, improving or going down of different criteria times the effect sign, whether it is positive or negative in terms of sustainability, at times the adjusted weight, that is the weight that we calculate. So with that, we are able to obtain a, so to speak, sustainability score that will give us, first of all, whether that alternative is increasing or reducing sustainability, and also will allow us to compare how is the impact of sustainability for different alternatives, facilitating the ranking of those alternatives, and also to compare the impact across different cities. So having said that, I give the floor again to Natalia to explain to us the practical case in order that you are able to understand how useful is this tool for the measurement of different alternatives.
Yes. Yes, to illustrate the applicability of this sustainability assessment method, it is applied, as already Jose said, to last mile logistic in 3 European cities, Madrid, The Hague, and Porto, which developed different case studies under the European Lead Research Project. These 3 cities are recognize the need to adopt sustainable last mile delivery solution in response to the growing environmental concept, the operational and urban planning challenges that they have. So in Madrid, the sustainability solution analyzes the implementation of an urban consolidation center for cross-docking from vans to electric vehicles in an underground parking in the city center using different low carbon vehicle fleet configuration for business to consumer parcel deliveries. So, as the first step of the methodology, there were created or defined 5 scenarios. The business as usual scenario, where a diesel van direct delivery the parcel from a platform 25 kilometers away using diesel cargo vans. And then there were created 4 different scenarios that are regarding the implementation of the urban consolidation center and using different vehicle fleet configuration. The hybrid van for the first echelon, and then the electric trikes for the last mile delivery from the urban consolidation center to the final destination, and with different vehicle fleets. So in the case of The Hague, there were analyzed the implementation of crowd shipping. Crowd shipping is a delivery method that leverage individuals to transport parcel, often as a part of a regular travel that they are doing, in exchange for a economic compensation. So in the case of The Hague, they create 3 different scenarios where the implementation of crowd shipping in the city, or the implementation of parcel lockers in a neighborhood, or the combination of both crowd shipping and parcel locker. And in the case of Porto, there were analyzed the implementation of electric vehicle fleet for business-to-business deliveries on an important logistic operator of the city. So they include, apart from the business-as-usual scenario, 3 scenarios depending on the level of penetration of this electric vehicle fleet. Okay, so first step, defining the scenario or with the sustainable logistic strategy that we want to assess. Okay. After defining the scenario, there is time to estimate these criteria in base of the KPIs of each of the scenarios. So in this case, it is important the availability of data to quantify these criteria. And in this case, the data was gathered from 3 different sources: logistic service providers. They have a lot of information on their logistic operation, like the energy consumption or the economic of financial rate of return, the economic deliverable reliability in the time windows, etc. Also, other KPIs were estimated based on the digital twin simulation, and others that are more qualitative based on survey based, like, for example, the social the social dimension, the quality of the jobs, for example. So here in the table you can see all these estimated KPIs for the different cities and the different scenarios. And as you can see, in most of the scenarios in all the cities, the strategies that were proposed have significant environmental improvement when they are compared to the baseline, for example, or also the reduction of energy use. In the case of Madrid, this environmental reduction, environmental impact reduction, came with a slight decrease in economic profitability. Sorry. In the case of the AIC, they stand out for the extremely improvement on delivery times and strong environmental performance. And however, these advantages are counterbalanced by higher operational costs or job creation also. And in Porto, they offer a well-rounded balance. It achieves high levels of job creation and quality, along with a strong perceived benefit for local shop and very reliable delivery performance. So overall, each city emphasized different priorities. Madrid leans towards environmental gains, the AIC toward delivery efficiency, and Porto toward more balanced integration on social and economic outcomes. In the final state of the methodology, because José Manuel just showing you the adjusted weight of each of the criteria, sorry, the variation of each sustainability criterion from the scenarios that were created to the relativity baseline scenario is calculated, and then the sustainability score of each scenario is then determined by multiplying each city adjusted weights by the corresponding criterion variation rate plus the effect signs. So this calculation captures this scenario contribution to sustainability, and this table provides a comparative overview of the sustainability performance scores for various last mile delivery strategies tested in different cities like Madrid, The Hague, and Porto. And they are based on a wide set of social, environmental, and economic key performance indicators. As you can see, at the end of the table, all in all, there is the sustainability score, and you can see that Madrid's urban consolidation center with electrification of all the vehicles demonstrate the highest sustainability thanks to this fully electric consolidated system that addresses social, environmental, and economic dimension in a balanced way. The AIC benefits from combined cross-shipping and parcel lockers. However, its social and economic impacts may vary as some criteria were not fully estimated. And Porto approach based on partial fleet electrification show incremental improvement yet in this sustainability score. So this result illustrates as an example how effective the different solutions are in each city for tackling their unique sustainability challenge, because each city have some different sustainability challenge. So it is important to note also that the sustainability score reflects the relative performance of each scenario compared to their business as usual scenario baseline, rather than be an absolute measure. So it's highlight how each intervention improve or worsen sustainability impacts in each city context. So this comparative perspective allows decision makers to identify the most promising strategies to tailor to their specific urban challenges. Okay. So all in all, the conclusion on the strategies applied in the LEAD project using this method, all the solution of the pilots improve sustainability. We have said that the result vary quite a lot depending on the context, because they have different adjusted weights. Discussing with stakeholders helps acquiring knowledge about what are the most promising last mile solution. Also, in the LEAD project, there was proof that digital twins are helpful to provide KPIs. And also, policymakers or any stakeholder, key stakeholder of the last mile delivery can use this tool to prioritize which are the most promising sustainability last mile solution. And just to finish, we have said we have presented you a sustainability assessment framework applicable to logistic strategies that can be easily adapted to the information available and the criteria selected to measure sustainability and the city context where the logistic solution or strategy is implemented. One of the greatest advantages is of the method is its flexibility. It allows its replicability and scalability to be applied to any logistic strategy implemented anywhere. It can also allows comparison of the effectiveness of different solutions in different places using the same sustainability criteria. The framework can be implemented considering different number of criteria depending on data availability. It also allows for the combination of quantitative and qualitative criteria. The framework also is useful for multiple end users like policymakers, planners, logistics operator, consultant, or research to prioritize logistic strategies based on sustainability, ensuring key drivers that are effective included in the decision-making process. Well, we also identify some limitations which are associated with the multi-criteria nature of the method. Although the Delphi and Rembrandt methods set a framework to ensure statistical confidence in the agreement of experts, setting the trade-off among different sustainability criteria is still a bit complicated. But, well, we are willing to have further activities which include the application to more variety of logistic case study. So if any one of you want to test the assessment tool with a practical case of his or her business, we are at your service. So please contact us if you want to prove the method. So thank you so much. Here are our contacts and email address. So if any one of you have any question.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Jose. It was fantastic, your presentation. Thank you both for sharing these insights with us. I'm going to ask you if you can share your presentation after by mail to share with anyone. In principle, I'm thinking for the students, the PhD students and master students and all degrees. I believe they are very interesting. I see some messages now for me to ask them, please, the presentation. So now
yes,
let's open.
Of course, no problem to share the presentation. Huh?
Okay, thank you very much, Jose. We're going to open the space to questions and any thoughts. Everyone feel free to use the chat, or if you want to speak, to raise your hand. I'm going to open your mic to speak directly. So be free to post any question.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone? Perhaps I'm going to start. What is the hardest part of when we applying sustainability methods in the real world? What is your experience in all these projects you are involved in?
Yeah. So my experience is that the most difficult thing to measure sustainability is actually to have data.
Yeah.
For two reasons. First, because operators don't want to share data, despite of the fact that they need to do it. And the second point is actually when you are trying to take a decision, you have to make models to know what's going to happen. Of course, this model can be based on a pilot. In the case of the LEAD project, what we did is, on the one hand, we developed a pilot, and also we calibrated digital twins. So the digital twins were simulation models that basically were able to give us an information that we needed for the calibration of these models. For instance, when we were counting for delivery time, of course, we were able to do it because we applied a pilot with a consolidation center, a micro hub consolidation center in the city of Madrid. But there were many other aspects that were very difficult to model, such as, for instance, it was the case of noise.
Mm-hmm.
So the case of noise, we have to use a very sophisticated model that we developed in UPM to calculate it. So basically, more than the method, one of the greatest issues is to get the data, to get on the one hand the data, and on the other hand, to model what is going to happen. Once you have that, everything is very easy. And that's actually one of the main advantages of the model that we have presented is precisely that, that we can make the model all the complex and all the simple that you want. At the end of the day, you just have 3 KPIs and that's what you have. You can come up with a certain score. But if you happen to have very sophisticated KPIs, you have 200 KPIs, and you are able to measure them over time. So you will be able to have a much greater accuracy on the measurement of sustainability. So to me, that's the greatest issue. Maybe, I don't know, Natalia, whether you can complement that.
No, I totally agree with you. The data and the quality of the data is the key issue in this sustainability assessment. Yeah.
I think we have the same problem with the access to data. We are all researchers, and when we need to make some research, all the stakeholders they need something innovative, or they need something in these companies or ports or whatever. but when you ask for the data is a problem.
Yeah.
All the
Because, for instance,
stakeholders don't want to share
to
data.
calibrate the weights, you can also always find experts, no? And even for the context, the city context nowadays, there are a lot of statistics that will give you information of the main sustainability issues across different geographies and cities, no? So again, to me, the most complicated things is data and modeling.
Yeah, and the collaboration of the stakeholders for that too. Okay. I have another question is because we are in the sector, on the port sector, I believe you responded, but can your model can be used in large scale in the like the ports or international corridors, for example?
Yes. Yes, the model is adaptable. I mean, here the application, we presented it for the case of cities, no? So of course the model is applicable to any type of logistic solution, long distance, I mean, any type of. The thing is that, of course, the model has to be adapted to the specific situation. And that means that the same KPIs, maybe not, the KPIs that we have used, for instance, for the urban context, may not be the right ones for the case of port logistics. No? Because, for instance, I'm thinking of noise of the neighbors. So maybe that's not such a big issue in many ports. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is, no? But the point is that, of course, the model, the methodology is applicable, but it has to be specifically adapted and fine-tuned for the needs of each one of the problems that you are dealing with. But the method as it is of course applicable to any case.
Okay, great, thank you. We have one question. Can this model be used for checking sustainability for optimize of port operations or ships in the particular ports, for example, Sinch ports?
Of course, it can be. Of course, it can be applied to that, no? Because as long as you have any action that is intended to improve sustainability, and the optimization of operation is definitely a measure for improving sustainability. So you have a business as usual scenario where the operation is, as you have been doing ever since the implementation of this new measure, and you have the new measure. So the new measure will imply a reduction in the consumption of energy, will imply a reduction of emissions, will likely imply some social aspects, no? Such as, for instance, more technological jobs that you have to create for the management and the development of that. So all those changes can be implemented into this model to end up with a calculation of the rating. So definitely the model is applicable to any action that is intended to change the way things are being operated. Because everything that is changed is producing some change that have an impact on sustainability KPIs.
Yeah, of course, it's adapted. You can adapt to anything, and then you need the data from this specific issue we want to validate. So in your study, I don't know if anyone want to ask more anything. If not, I think we finish now, and I want to say thank you all for being with us today, and a special thanks to Natalia and José for this sharing and for sharing your work and with such clarity and proposal. I enjoy very much. It's fantastic what you do. Well, we will continue this conversation in the next sessions. Always focus on innovation and sustainability. And practical solutions is what we need, real solutions for the logistic and for port sector. Once again, Natalia and Jose, thank you very much for your time. And
thank you all for your attention. We were not able to see your faces, but I see that you are showing that you were interested. So that's always pleasing for us.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.